Hello and welcome, brother friends. This is the WrestleWolf Weekly Wrestling Podcast. I'm Dr. Damian Gibson, and joining me, as always, is the man who only deals in kayfabe and nothing else. It's Sir Matthew Kayfabe.
Hello, how are you going?
I'm good, man. I thought we could try and be professional and let the listeners know what we've got coming up on the show today. And then, of course, my phone's going to go black. We've got some Dave Meltzerings about Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, and Tessa Blanchard. You'll be able to find out which New Japan star has appeared on Impact Wrestling and why I've unfollowed every wrestling personality on the face of the planet on social media.
We'll also touch on Blood
Plus
and Guts.
AEW Dynamite chat.
I like that you've you're the assumption in your sizzle that our listeners haven't watched Impact Wrestling, which is probably a fair assumption.
It's probably fair, man. If you look at the ratings, the majority of people haven't.
Well, given our listenership, we're on about double what Impact is at the moment, so.
It's starting to get to that point, man. It really is. And it's weird because Impact is good.
Impact is good.
It's a good wrestling show. Every week, I'm like, this is fun. This is good. There was a promo from Big Cass, aka he's now called W. Morrissey. Which, if you're an indie kid like I am, it's so confusing because it's like coming up next, Morrissey. And I'm like, what? Why? Oh, that Morrissey.
Yeah, I was like, we shouldn't be giving Morrissey TV time. Surely he's...
Any airtime whatsoever. No. I mean, everyone has a right to their own opinion, but Moz is genuinely...
He's pretty bad.
Lost his mind.
It's weird because I listen to early Smith albums and I'm like, how did this man become that man?
Yeah, he was he was a left-wing poster boy before it was even really a thing, like meat is murder and I'm such a dandy and everyone else is a meathead.
He's suing The Simpsons.
Yeah, because they had a go at him.
It's pretty great. And his problem is he appeared fatter than he'd ever appeared in real life on The Simpsons.
I saw him at South by Southwest in 2006. This is a humble brag. I'm getting very good at these. And he ended up with no shirt on at the end of the gig. It was it's one of the best gigs I'd ever seen.
Really?
It was like, oh, holy shit, I'm seeing Morrissey. Well, it's Morrissey, right? And also it was at South by Southwest. I was in America watching Morrissey, and he hadn't gone full QAnon at this stage. He was just, there were a lot of Fred Perrys, which I was like, yeah, there's a lot of Fred Perrys on stage. Anyway, at the end of the gig, because he was still doing the same stage routine where he, he came out with a shirt with 3 buttons undone. And then by the end of the gig, it was gone. And he looked like a 45, 50-year-old man.
Well, I mean, that he was at that point a 45-year-old.
Yeah, he was not in rock star shape, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, that's sad.
So I'm willing to testify in the Simpsons versus Morrissey case.
I'll let him
know. We should go through news stuff. You've got some Dave Meltzer?
I've got some Meltzer
rings. Is that what we're calling it? Meltzer rings?
Meltzer rings. I don't know. We've had melts. We've had melts.
We change it up every week.
Meltdowns. Anyway.
Meltzer Town? Wasn't that the
Meltstown? Oh yeah, that was.
We're living here in Meltzer Town. Wasn't that what we were going to do?
Well, and if you want to do that every time, yes. All right, we got the.
Not really.
Should I start with the small one and go up to the big one, or should I start with? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Yeah. That would be the professional podcasting thing to do, but we're not very good at that. But yeah, let's go from small to big.
So we got Samoa Joe and Chelsea Green have appeared on a Slammiversary ad. The notable thing here is this happened in 2020 with Eric Young, EC3, who both returned, the Motor City Machine Guns who returned. Eric Young and EC3 had been under contract to WWE, and the Good Brothers who debuted on Slammiversary 2020. So it would probably imply that Samoa Joe and Chelsea Green are at the very least making an appearance. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's really good for Impact. That's 2 big names that will draw more eyes to the product, which, as we said in the intro, is already really good. It doesn't necessarily mean that they'll sign for Impact, though, because one of those examples, EC3, didn't stay on So
yes, that's right.
with Slammiversary as Impact's biggest pay-per-view, it's like their WrestleMania, for if anyone doesn't know. So it may be that both of these guys show up for Slammiversary and then go off to do New Japan or AEW or whatever. But yeah, I know you're keen to see Joe in AEW, but I would be happy to see him in Impact.
I don't want to see him. I think he's a big enough name. And I've argued on this podcast before that I want to see Andrade, who obviously has a bigger future ahead of him, or at least more of a future ahead of him. I want to see him go off and do other things before coming to AEW. Joe is such a massive name that I feel like if he debuted next week on Dynamite, it would be just a massive deal. He's only got so many bumps left. He's already spent a lot of time out with injury. I just want to see him on the big stage. I don't really want to see Samoa Joe versus Triple XL or Tommy Dreamer. I want to see Samoa Joe versus Kenny Omega. I want to see Samoa Joe versus Miro. I want to see Samoa Joe versus Orange Cassidy. Heel Joe versus Cassidy, fucking sick. Take my money. Joe versus Darby Allin, where Darby just lets him actually murder him. Yeah, absolutely. And given other people in that are currently out of contract, and I know that invasion angles are enormously overbooked, terrifying things. Why not have the Ring of Honor originals? Just the three fellows rock up in AEW and be like, hey, you guys say you're about wrestling, we're the pure wrestlers, and have Joe Punk and another fellow who we'll talk about a little bit later. That might be a little bit too much of a fantasy book, though.
It sounds good.
Chris Hero. Chris Hero's available.
Yeah. And Chelsea Green, we've kind of already spoken about where I think she'll just get more oxygen on Impact, and then maybe she might move across to AEW. But she's also good enough to be at the top of the AEW women's division. I'm not saying that she wouldn't be, but just with the lack of time that the girls get on Dynamite at the moment, she might see Impact as just a better option. Because on Impact this week, there were 2 women's matches. So Impact are already doing 100% more than AEW are with their women's division. But anyway, either way, it's exciting that I assume both of them have 90-day non-compete clauses in their, Connecticut contract. Yes. So it would make sense that the first thing that they do is Slammiversary. So it's exciting to Slammiversary is going to be a good show again.
And it is a couple of days or weeks after the end of those 90-day non-competes. So that's the other. Very, very clever of TNA or Impact, to always have their major show just after all these people become available.
3 months after the WrestleMania. It's perfect, yeah. They're run by the guys who run Impact are smart dudes.
So we'll move on, though. We'll move on. So this is directly from The Observer this week. To quell rumours at this point, and of course decisions like this could change in the future. Thank you, Dave, for basically saying this is entirely meaningless and could be anything. But right now, they are not even close to signing Tessa Blanchard or Daga, for that matter, and neither has even been made an offer. Everyone knows the situation. She could be one of the top stars in the company and of great value to the AEW women's division, but her past has made it to where, up to this point, the decision has been made not to try and bring her in. There were reports of them signing, stemming from the report that Daga was close to signing somewhere, and that at AAA expects by late summer they could bring him back. So we've discussed Tessa Blanchard before. She would obviously also be a great addition on television, but I think we have sort of different opinions on whether we want to see her in AEW, because I would like to see her.
I don't know enough about her. That's I think I said this last week as well. Is my opinion is uneducated, and I try, even though that's kind of the point of podcasting, to not say anything unless I know something about it, or at least have seen the wrestler. I've never seen her wrestle, so I can't. I've seen little promos and stuff like that. She looks great. She's Tully Blanchard's daughter, so she'll know the industry. I just think that AEW have this kind of, it just feels to me like they would stay away from controversial figures like that.
It's actually
Like, I don't think you would see Marty Scurll either on AEW anytime soon. Like, even maybe a Will Ospreay might be out of bounds, even though Will's, misdemeanors were probably smaller than the other two wrestlers I'm talking about. But they just seem to not want to covet that controversy, whereas WWE don't really seem to give a shit about.
Well, I mean,
I think she might be more likely to show up in WWE than AEW.
I think the only thing is, obviously, it's interesting that she hasn't been offered, given that she is a generational talent. Like, she would immediately be up there with, Charlotte, Flair, and Becky Lynch as just the absolute tippy top of a division.
Well, Charlotte Flair versus Tessa Blanchard is money, right?
Yeah.
Like, that story is already written. You don't need to write anything. It's just, you just put them in the ring and they talk about how close their dads were and they grew up together and blah, 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 blah. But, now, it's time for me to show which one,
But, I mean, particularly if you get...
that I'm a real horsewoman or blah, 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 blah.
If you get 6 months of them paired together and then you get, basically 10 years of feuding, that would be pretty wonderful.
You could even have a thing where Charlotte wants to get the 4 horsewomen back together, but obviously Becky is out, so she's going to bring a new horsewoman. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't done that gimmick, like the actual 4 horsewomen. You know what I mean? Like, complete with 4 fingers up and all that. I mean, it just feels like leaving money on the table.
I mean, maybe they will.
But anyway,
that's sort of the I guess the big news of the week. And I don't know if we've talked about this. Is Daniel Bryan wrestled on SmackDown? The stipulation being he would have to leave SmackDown if he lost. He lost. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, we got a CM Punk sort of retirement tour before he just fucked off and stopped. When he was in contempt of his contract, we got a Dean Ambrose. Like, we got literally a goodbye to the Shield match, which was exceptionally strange. And then we just got a headline from, I think it was Fightful, that said that Daniel Bryan's actually out of contract, despite the fact that the stipulation has to leave SmackDown. And we all just assumed, him going around sort of talking about, maybe I'd like to go to Japan or whatever, was probably just a bit of a work. Meltzer suggests that there's no answer as to what's next for Bryan. He's been put in the alumni section of the company's website. And he's done sort of, obviously a lot of interviews, and that there's really no obvious answer as to what comes next for him. He's completely free to negotiate with anyone. He's under no 90-day contract. He could show up next week on Raw. He could show up next week on AEW. Meltzer suggests that if it weren't a pandemic situation with quarantine issues, he wouldn't be surprised to see him wrestling at the Tokyo Dome show, and that WWE is still trying to negotiate with him, and the door's very open. So where do you want to see Daniel Bryan pop up? That's the question.
Well, AEW.
In what way?
I mean, Daniel Bryan is the all-star signing that we've been fantasy booking for the year that we've been doing this podcast together.
He's there to outwork everyone.
Daniel Bryan.
He's there to outwork everyone. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to slag off Christian because Christian is a legend of wrestling, right? But it was a little disappointing. He's like, him being it's kind of the Matt Hardy Exalted One situation all over again, where we all just decided that it was CM Punk or someone huge, and it was Christian, which was good, but not super exciting. Daniel Bryan going to AEW legitimizes AEW as like, it would be a holy shit moment of like, oh man, this is big. Daniel Bryan has crossover. What's the right word here? Like, people know who Daniel Bryan is. Non-wrestling fans have heard of Daniel Bryan, like his book was a New York Times.
I mean, he was just in he literally was just in a WrestleMania main event.
Yeah, he's a big deal, and WWE is still trying to keep him around. So, you know, it would be amazing if he showed up on AEW. I think listening to, I mean, anyone who's listened to any podcasts I've ever done about wrestling knows that Daniel Bryan is in my top 3 wrestlers of all time. Listening to him talk at the moment, he doesn't sound like he's that in love with wrestling.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Or at least like he wasn't with the end of his run in WWE, which is kind of strange because it was pretty good. Like that storyline between, it was a little confusing at times, but the majority of that story between Roman, Edge, and himself was good, right? Like for the last 2 months or so that he was in WWE. And even before that, when he was doing stuff with Drew Gulak and Cesaro, putting people over, like he was doing really good work, but he just didn't seem to be into it. So I don't know whether it's a situation of like action leads to motivation in the sense of like he goes somewhere else and then he falls in love with wrestling again, or he needs some time off to get the tingle back, to want to go and wrestle. But money's not we know money's not an issue for Tony when it comes to getting Daniel on board. So
but we can probably also say that
think it just comes down
of all the wrestlers in all the professional wrestlers in the world, Daniel Bryan might be the only one who money is not an issue for.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just about to say. I think it comes down to what Daniel wants to do. Well, sorry, what Bryan, he'll be Bryan Danielson again.
Potentially.
Right? Well, he can't, he won't be able to use Daniel Bryan.
Unless he's going to back to, and I think you've got until he officially leaves, we've got to assume that he's, WWE are in prime position to get him back.
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't sound very happy about Mania, and just going from what he has said in interviews, it doesn't sound like he's angry with WWE. It just sounds like he's done with them. But who knows, man? Who knows what he wants to do next? I think what all I was going to say is that if it comes down to him, he will want to do really good work. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him doing stuff with Will Ospreay in New Japan.
Well, I think that the notable thing that has been sort of stuck in my head with Bryan is the interview he did after at some point where he basically said, comparing us to, we're not a pro wrestling product, we're a sports entertainment product, and Daniel Bryan is a pro wrestler. Like, he's not a sports entertainer. Yeah. He's a pro wrestler. And so for me, that was a real that's a very strange thing for him to be, this guy's dedicated his life to one way of wrestling. Are we?
Yeah. And also, he's not a huge work merchant when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, so far, he's been really honest about everything. He's been like, I don't know if I'm super happy at WWE, and then like 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, I'm not in WWE anymore. And so I think we've kind of got to take that. He's one of the few guys that you take at face value. And like a week and a half ago, he was talking about wanting to wrestle Kenny Omega. So
if
me personally, I would say that AEW is in the box seat.
Well, you've got to think.
It seems like he wants to do something different. AEW is the other big wrestling promotion.
Well, you've got to think that
they've got Kenny Omega. He wants to wrestle Kenny Omega.
They will offer him absolutely anything. And if they don't, they are absolutely negligent in their duties to professional wrestling.
Oh, but Matt Cardona looks like a good prospect, though. So
you would have to think that if I was them, this is the opportunity, right, where you could get Daniel Bryan, who, he's at the end of his career, but he's just main evented a WrestleMania. Yeah. Who cares?
He's only 39. It's not like he's Jericho's age.
No. But he is, a big deal. And you'd think if you're going to get him, you would also be like, look, what do they pay? What's Brock Lesnar's contract? Let's look that up. But, just offer him millions of dollars for however many dates he wants, and you'd say you'd do the same thing for CM Punk. And then all of a sudden, maybe you're not getting Raw ratings, maybe you're getting SmackDown ratings.
Yeah, I also think getting Daniel Bryan legitimizes any offers that you do put towards a CM Punk. You know what I mean? It's like, well, Bryan's here, and he's loving it. And I'm not saying Daniel Bryan and CM Punk are best mates, but they're friendly. They respect each other. From what I've heard both of them say, and trust me, I spend a lot of time watching both of them on YouTube and Instagram. So, but anyway, we're probably getting a bit ahead of ourselves. It's like all you got to do is book Daniel Bryan, then CM Punk will come, and then AEW will be the biggest wrestling promotion on the face of the planet.
It's a little bit my fault there. I'll have to take credit for that one. But really, like you are talking about, like if Tony Khan obviously would be reaching out to him, and
absolutely.
like the option is, it's like you can go back to WWE and you can be a sports entertainer, and that's a perfectly valid thing to do. I don't think it's probably not. One factor would probably be the fact that there's been rumors of the Balor twins returning. Like, obviously that's not going to happen in AEW. Oh well, maybe it is, but I don't think it's going to happen in AEW.
Well, if Daniel comes across, maybe, but
they're really a very, very, very WWE product. But is there, what AEW can offer? WWE can offer more. They can offer a bigger stage. They can probably offer more money, though. That who knows what access Tony Khan has to what money. But AEW can offer a fuckload of money, being the biggest star on Wednesday night TNT, and the ability to wrestle in New Japan, the ability to wrestle in Ring of Honor, the ability to wrestle in Impact, the ability to wrestle at fucking Joey Janela's spring break. Like,
well, that's it. That's the clincher. You
can come wrestle for MCW in Melbourne, Australia if you want. Like there is...
Please come to Melbourne and wrestle for MCW.
Like this is the thing, right? Like you can sort of imagine him going anywhere.
It's going to be a little difficult to get into Thornbury Theatre if Daniel Bryan's headlining.
But like this is
MCW.
Him being all elite, like that would be just such a phenomenally big deal. The return
huge.
of the American Dragon.
Oh man. And then it's just a matter of time before we get Sammy and Kevin Owens. And then that's it. And then we get Will Ospreay from Japan. Oh, sorry, AEW. We're meant to be impartial observers here, aren't we? Rather than saying we.
Yes. Oh, well. Like, but this is the thing. Like, I think WWE are still in the prime position because obviously he has a good relationship with them. Despite these storylines, like he's one of their most pushed stars. I don't think money matters to him, but at a certain point when you've got a family, I guess, maybe money does. Although I suspect he's the kind of guy who doesn't have a mortgage and could basically just live off the land, not eat anything that casts a shadow level of vegan. But you just, the possibilities, like, fuck, it'd be disappointing if, in 2 SmackDowns, Roman Reigns issues an open challenge and Daniel Bryan comes out.
Oh, yeah. I think what makes me think that he won't come back to WWE is just listening to him speak over the last 2 to 3 weeks in different interviews. And he seems bored. He seems a bit down on what he's been doing, and he seems bored, and is like the other option is that he retires.
Yeah.
I mean, that is,
and
that has come up when he talks about, he's like, I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with wrestling next. So he's just had another kid. So, and he seems like a pretty big family man. But having said that, I mean, AEW's schedule is not as grueling as WWE's. And that's another thing that would be really appealing.
And also to
him. I've heard Sean Spears talk about that. I've heard Jon Moxley talk about that it's a big...
I mean, he's just spent several years, doing everything he can to get back in the ring. Like he got his own doctor to get, to clear him from concussions. Like that wasn't WWE. Like it would be quite shocking if he comes back for a year and then is like, fuck it, or 2 years.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that if he does go away from wrestling, I don't see him being like Punk.
But maybe he wants to be. Maybe he wants to be a trainer. Maybe he wants to be maybe he wants to go into the Hall of Fame. Like it doesn't seem like it, but we don't know the guy. Like, who knows? Like, it just, WWE offers you legacy. And, like, as we've seen with, people that do sort of burn Vince, he owns the tape. Like, they just disappear. They become, look at what he did to Ultimate Warrior. Like, fuck Ultimate Warrior, but, like, they borderline slandered the guy in a DVD release just because, he burnt Vince.
Vince is a petty man.
And I feel like going to AEW at this time is, not going to...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Vince sees AEW as competition.
I think he certainly would after... he had Jericho on before they
Bryan
were having,
showed up.
1.2 million audience shares as well.
I don't know. I feel like Vince is underestimating AEW. But anyway, what do I want? I want him to go to AEW. Selfishly, as a selfish mark, absolutely. But he's given me so much joy over a 15-year period. Whatever he wants to do, I'll be like, oh, that's cool. I might have a bit of a sulk if he retires for a couple of days. No, don't get to see Daniel Bryan anymore. But yeah, I don't know. No one ever comes out of WWE seeming super happy, right? Like even people who have had good runs like Daniel. So I think, it would be nice to see him do something else and see him be really happy wrestling again. But
it would be great to just see him in some pure wrestling. Like, Daniel Bryan, Will Ospreay would be pretty... Just to understate it, would be pretty fun.
Oh, fuck yeah, man. But CM Punk's going to wrestle Will Ospreay at the end of the year anyway, so Daniel can't steal that limelight. Unless they come out together. Oh! Imagine that. Or Daniel does a run-in after CM Punk beats Will Ospreay.
Never let the sun go down on yourself, Damien. Never let the sun go down on yourself.
I won't, man. I'm going to keep booking CM Punk till he's dead. I think we're the same age. So
you're racing. Who first?
Phil. So
who goes first?
Oh, me. Definitely. I abused my body for years.
I mean,
he's
still a professional wrestler though.
Yeah, but also retired at 31 or something.
Yeah, you might be in some strife. Anyway, I'm going for you.
Oh, he did do UFC for a couple of years.
That's true.
Get the absolute shit kicked out of him. We might be on a par. Anyway, what's next? What's the next point?
That's it. We're done. We're on to AEW.
Oh, no, we're not, because I got a few things from other promotions that have happened during the week. Did you see WWE's big return to try and get people to watch Raw again? Eva Marie's back.
Oh,
man.
I did see this. No, I'm just not acknowledging it. Sorry.
Everything's red. And Twitter had a complete meltdown like you would expect. I saw some WWE marks trying to stick up for Eva Marie. Like, oh, I think it's good. I think she gets hate. Blah, 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 blah.
Well, she definitely gets hate.
Right, man.
That's absolutely correct.
It's not good heat. It's fucking Miz heat.
Miz is good, though.
It's Miz heat.
Is good.
He's not.
He is objectively
If
good.
he was, people would be watching Raw.
The Miz is actually great.
But no one's watching Raw.
Nah, the Miz is great.
He's still talking about Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny's gone. Every week he cuts a promo about Bad Bunny.
I wouldn't know because I don't watch, but
Me either. I've been secretly watching bits and pieces. Anyway, I just thought that was hilarious that Eva Marie's back.
What a blow to AEW.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, if you're Tony Khan, you'd just be fucking pissing yourself laughing. NWA Power announced a 14-man battle royal to determine who will be the number one contender for Nick Aldis, which at first I was like, blah. But the stipulations are that anyone who holds a belt in NWA won't be in this match. So I'm hoping that NWA behind the scenes have been going around and trying to sign some legitimately decent indie wrestlers, which they have done in the past. So come on, NWA. Don't let me down. You got me. I haven't renewed my subscription, but that was positive news coming out of another power surge this week. Another one.
Well, I don't watch NWA, and I don't want to see any Nick Aldis matches, so I'm sorry.
But dude, it's been going for 6 weeks, and 2 of those 6 episodes have been non-episodes.
That's why I wouldn't watch it. It's not good.
Like, say what you want about Raw, but you do get Raw every week. I mean, it is legitimately the exact same episode every week, but at least you get a wrestling episode every week. And Impact. Now, there was a legitimate, huge, what do you want to call it? New person. What's the word I'm looking for?
Signee, debut.
Well, I don't know if he's signed, but he did just show up out of nowhere, and that's El Phantasmo from New Japan. Showed up on Impact this week.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, won a match immediately, was awesome immediately, and has been put in a 6-man, I think it's a 6-man, like, it's not a round robin, like it's a 6-man match to determine who the number 1 contender for the X Division title is.
Shit.
Next week on Impact.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, hot on the heels of like Finjuice is still the Impact champions.
Yeah.
And now El Phantasmo's on the roster. This is awesome. There's like this sort of secret, it's almost like this secret club of like, well, if you want to watch New Japan and don't want to buy the New Japan network, you can watch Impact.
Yeah.
But it's cool, man. That Forbidden Door's still open, and people are coming and going through it all the time.
That's really exciting. Really exciting. El Phantasmo's great. People should be watching Impact. It's a good show.
Yeah, and it's getting better all the time. They're doing exactly what NWA should be bloody doing.
Making good wrestling shows without Nick Aldis. I agree.
Yes. If they had any other wrestlers on their roster, man, then they could drop the belt. But
just give it.
Nick Aldis is literally the only reason to watch that show at the
Just
moment.
give it to Cody. Like, he's like, it means more to him than anyone else. Like, just let him be NWA champion.
He would love it.
Like,
he would absolutely.
Well, that's the first thing he did after he left WWE. He went and won the NWA championship.
They had a really good feud, Nick Aldis and Cody. That was some great stuff.
Bring it back, with people watching. That would be nice.
Yeah, it would be good. Should we talk about Blood and Guts?
Blood and Guts. Yes, let's talk about Blood and Guts.
I loved all of this
Can we
episode.
make a commitment to the people listening right now? Because they're 35 minutes in. We're releasing this after every other wrestling podcast for last week. We're not going to talk about I don't think we need to talk about the crash pad. Who cares?
Oh, what?
Like, who gives a shit? If
I didn't until every fucking neckbeard on earth had a fucking nervous breakdown about it, and then almost made me want to stop watching wrestling.
Exactly. It's 30 seconds. We don't need to be those neckbeards. Like, who gives a fuck? It would like all those bumps. There has not been. Here's my comment. There has not been one good high spot since Mick Foley got pushed down the out of the cage, and it fucking look at what it's done to Mick Foley. Like, who cares?
Yeah. He can't walk.
It's like every time Shane McMahon jumps off something onto a fucking trampoline, it's like, yeah, well, like, obviously, mate. Like, it's like you're never like, oh no, he's gonna die. You're like, no, it's like massively padded surface. Who cares? It's wrestling. It's pretend.
I could not fathom the backlash. I couldn't get my head around it. It was so ridiculously over the top. And I don't even really want to give it any oxygen because it just felt like a bunch of people on Twitter fucking lost their mind. Then and I'll name them, Wrestle Talk fucking got on board, then Cultaholic, and then every other fucking YouTube channel on earth. And like, then whenever anyone came, because I spent like a couple of hours replying to these people going, are you serious? Like, it's a high spot. Of course there was a crash pad. Relax. Stop being a dickhead.
I think you can say, like, look, AEW...
And then those people...
AEW's production is sometimes a bit off. Like, I think the worst bit than the crash pad was being able to see Jericho talking to MJF, basically telling him how they were going to pull off that spot. Like, like the way... It's not the way I would have done it. Like, the way I would have done it would be... to have made Jericho tap out and, then MJF pushes him off the top of the cage or something, like, something to make MJF look like fucking Satan, but,
Yeah.
maybe do it a little bit.
The shot should have been a wide shot.
Yeah, but like,
when Jericho was pushed off the top of the cage, it should have been a wide shot. And then you wait until everyone comes out to check on Jericho to get a close up of.
Exactly.
But whatever, like, it's a couple of small production errors that, like, I did notice it at the time. I was like, oh man, that steel looks very much like cardboard. Yeah. But so what? It's a wrestling show. I could not get over how fucking over the top the reaction was to it. But it actually led to a positive thing, because in my personal feed on all social medias, I unfollowed everybody who had anything to do with wrestling at all. And it's such a nicer experience now to go on
anything
on social media and not have to listen to people's bullshit opinions. I just couldn't believe that, and then when anyone went back at them, there was this ridiculous argument of like, I never said that I wanted Jericho to take a bump on concrete. I was like, no, that's not what my issue is. My issue is that there was a 50-minute match that's one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen, and all you motherfuckers spent your time talking about was the bump that Chris took afterwards and whether it looked real or not. I didn't hear anyone talking about Sammy Guevara and the amazing performance that he put on in that match. I didn't hear anyone talk about Santana and Ortiz and how they almost killed themselves for our own entertainment. I didn't hear anyone talk about how good Wardlow is. I didn't hear anyone talk about the way that MJF, took bumps that we don't usually see him take. Even fucking Jake was all right in this match.
This was
and
we're going to be the podcast that does say all these things, because you've already now said them, and second, because they're all absolutely accurate. Like, this was everyone in this match looked like this made me get Wardlow. Like, I've been like, oh yeah, he could be good, but this made me be like, oh yeah, that guy's like probably going to be something pretty impressive at some point.
Yeah,
like this is great stuff.
Well, should we quickly go through the first hour, and then we can
let's do it.
Go a bit more in depth about the Blood and Guts match, and then we'll finish.
Sounds good to me.
What did happen in the first match? I've almost forgotten. What did we? We had John Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus Nakazawa and Kenny Omega. This match was fine.
Yeah, it was what it needed to be.
I like John and oh God, I'm blanking on everyone's names. I do this with Eddie Kingston all the time, every week. I like the idea of them as a tag team, but there's something about this storyline that just isn't quite clicking for me.
Look, it's not the most exciting storyline, but we're about to get, Samoa Joe debut, and we're going to get Joe Kingston. This is my Daniel Bryan. Like, I just want to see Samoa Joe and Eddie Kingston forever.
It would be pretty great. Yeah, then we had the Cody QT Marshall match, which was not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Look, yeah,
QT Marshall is not very good at wrestling,
and hopefully this means that although, so it's like that Anthony Ogogo guy is clearly, he has got all the potential to be a star. Are we ready for him to be in this match with Cody? Which is what I'm assuming. They've teased that Cody's making his Double or Nothing announcement at the next Dynamite, and given the end of this match, are we ready for Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Ogogo? Is Anthony Ogogo ready for Cody Rhodes? Or, and I've got a pitch for you, and it's not a good pitch. Cody Rhodes announcing this points out that maybe it's not going to be like, he's not going to say it would be a very strange thing for them to forward promote Cody Rhodes coming out and saying, I'm going to wrestle or challenge Anthony Ogogo, but it would not be a very strange thing. Anthony Ogogo is an Olympic boxer. At the moment, this Triller thing, like, people are making a fucking fortune off big celebrities boxing real people. Is Cody Rhodes going to really box Anthony Ogogo?
Oh, I think he is. I had not even contemplated that being 100%. It's Cody. Cody's going to want to fucking do.
He is going to get the absolute shit kicked out of him, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, oh God, I think that's what the announcement will be. I don't think it'll be a shoot boxing match. Oh God, I hope
with
not.
Mike Tyson refereeing, right?
Well, it is AEW, so of course you got to get Iron Mike involved somehow. I think you're right. I think that's what will be the announcement this Wednesday.
Well, it's just
dude.
like, because I saw that and I'm like, oh God, like, fuck, Cody thinks he's Triple H. It's so funny. And then I was like, wait a tick. What's he actually announcing here? I just have this.
Who knows? I think Anthony Ogogo's got plenty of upside, but I just feel like this is all a bit rushed. If that's what it is, it's been like what 3 weeks?
Yeah. Well, look, I'm glad that they've moved on from QT Marshall.
QT.
Like, that's obviously clearly over as him anyway. Like, hopefully they're not going to be like, well, QT gets another chance at Cody.
Oh God. No.
Like this.
If QT's out of the picture, then I probably did overreact to the QT Cody angle.
I don't think so, right?
Bit,
think about this. So there are 4 vice presidents. QT Marshall is Cody Rhodes' best friend. Brandon, whatever his name is, the D&D wrestler. Brandon Cutler's the Young Bucks' best friend. Michael Nakazawa is Kenny Omega's best friend. Michael Nakazawa is being used as like a production assistant. Brandon Cutler's a dork who is kept around by the Young Bucks to film them for backstage vignettes. And QT Marshall's in a really big feud that is getting major TV time. So one of those things is not like the other.
No, but if it means that the other 3 guys in the factory get put over a little bit, then I'm probably not as angry about it as I was a month ago. Yeah. But it's still shit.
But I mean, it would have been way cooler. The way
still should be Warhorse versus
but
Cody.
Really, you could have just had those 3 guys. You could have been like, hey, we're going inside the Nightmare Factory and this is how, they train, all this kind of stuff. And you just have a few vignettes and then you have them just fucking truck QT Marshall. So then Cody's put on notice and he's like,
It should have been Dustin. It should have been Dustin. Rather than QT.
But they didn't even need
and
an
then
old
you
guy.
Replace QT with Dustin and it's 1,000 times better story.
QT should have just been trucked and left bleeding. That's the anyway. Yeah. Anyway, it's not worth mourning over too much.
No, it was whatever. It's fine. The Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, Darby Allin promo, pretty amazing.
I mean, I watched this 3 times. Because I was like, did they actually just push Darby Allin down some concrete stairs? And they did. They just pushed him down some concrete stairs. Did. Ethan Page is great.
Probably didn't help. Yeah, this probably didn't help people's reaction later on.
No. Well, it certainly made it a little bit when someone takes a bump that is so massively irresponsible as Darby does on a regular basis. But also, Ethan Page said something that I was like, this is fantastic. Because he just straight up said, yeah, I could talk about all the history we have and, the fact that we've wrestled each other all over the world and I've done this to you and blah, 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 blah. But, no one cares about that stuff they haven't seen. And it's like, so first of all, he gets over the fact that they have this massive backstory, but he also doesn't just make that the story. He sort of, moves the story on, which is great wrestling storytelling.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And it made me really like Ethan Page. I mean, I already liked Ethan Page, but it made me really like AEW Ethan Page. And also kind of made me change my mind about Scorpio Sky.
Really?
So I'm kind of into Scorpio Sky. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's been a long time coming.
Well, he was just so bland with SCU, man. He's got a bit of personality now.
That's true.
There's motivation to the character. The character is actually a character. It's not just his generic athletic wrestler number 7.
That's fair.
But yeah, love this. Can't wait to see everyone involved be more involved in it. Darby, just relax. You know what I mean? I love seeing what you do, man, but fucking hell.
don't kill yourself yet.
Yeah, please, not for wrestling fans, man. We don't deserve it. The Taz analytics video was pretty cool.
I loved it. I loved that they're doing that now as a troll rather than a legit. I like them when they're legitimate. I like them when they're trolls. It's great.
Yeah. Britt Baker did a little promo. Like she could legitimately be a crossover star.
She is going to be a great women's champion. I think that's my takeaway.
No, I think Sheeta should keep the belt.
You can get fucked. I quit.
I'm 100% joking. I think Sheeta's been a really good champion, and I think in a really difficult period of time.
Yeah.
But it's been a really long time. It's time. It's time, man. It's time for Britt Baker to be champion.
It's time.
Get your Goth Whitlam t-shirts out. It's time for Britt Baker to. We've got to put one obscure Australian political reference.
Did you just say Goth Whitlam? If so, that's the name of my new band.
Goth.
I thought you might have said Goth.
Goth Whitlam is pretty sick.
I'm way in on that.
Yeah, you got to come down to the ESPY and see my Cure cover band, Goth Whitlam. The Acclaimed are in my stable, dude.
Really?
Yeah, I'm getting in and drafting them before you get an opportunity.
It's a bit disappointing. They're pretty great. The rap.
They're so good.
This week, when he references Dark Side of the Ring, I was like, this is the most inappropriate thing to ever happen on television, and I love it so much.
Yeah, man. SCU going over in this match annoyed me slightly when you consider who the other three teams were, but it kind of builds up SCU going into their match with the Young Bucks.
And they're not going to be a tag team from next week, so surely it makes you feel a little bit better.
Yeah, and I don't want to be a giant baby about it. Like all those other three teams will be around for 15 years, and I'll get to watch them a lot. The only thing is I don't really know much about Kazarian or Chris Daniels, so there's very little investment in me. But I will say the last few weeks they have piqued my interest a lot more than they have previously.
Well, that's good.
But I think it's because I know there's an end game to it, so I'm prepared to wear it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think look, if this was SCUR hurtling towards the tag team titles, that would be a very bad storyline.
Yeah. A couple of other really tiny things before we get into the main event. Moxley cut a promo about Nagata.
Yep,
he's going to.
This was sick. This was so good. I can't wait to see this.
Yeah,
this was a legitimately great promo pack as well.
Yeah, great promo. Going to be an amazing match. More New Japan stuff, which is great. Then Kenny came out, cut a promo with Orange Cassidy that until Orange came out was probably running a little bit long for my liking. But that's probably because I was just excited for the Blood and Guts match. But yeah, Kenny and Orange Cassidy are going to have a feud.
Well, I don't like. This is the thing. I got real excited about Kenny Pack, and I was sitting there. I'm like, this is fucking incredible. I can't believe they're going to do this.
Yeah.
And then Orange Cassidy came out, and I'm like, I sort of.
Oh no.
Well, the thing is, like, I sort of want Kenny Omega to fuck over Orange Cassidy, so we get a Pac Omega, just 5-star incredible match, and then eventually we build to an Orange Cassidy. Like, is this?
I think that might be what
particularly
happens.
If we're heading towards actual capacity crowds. Like, I know that the big story is Adam Page overcoming everything and at All In or whatever, winning the title. But it might be one of the biggest pops of all time if at All In, Orange Cassidy was the person who beat Kenny Omega in a shock.
Holy shit.
And Orange Cassidy doesn't need... Orange Cassidy could lose the title the next night on Dynamite. Like, it'd be perfectly fine booking. He doesn't need it. Like, it doesn't matter. It would just be a major... Like, and he's better without a title. Like, it would be... He's the kind of baby face that you'd...
I don't know. It would be pretty interesting to see Orange Cassidy as AEW champion for a bit.
But, like, he's the kind of baby face that doesn't need it. Like, he like Daniel Bryan. Like, Daniel Bryan as a heel with the title is one of the greatest things in the world. But as a face with the title,
so
kind of like, you want to see him on the chase. You don't want to see him on the, as the top of the world. But that could be, like, better than Adam Page winning the title, which is something I never expected to say.
Yeah. I don't know. I really do want to see that Adam Page redemption story, like hero's journey.
But I mean,
he
still could. Like, if they flipped the title back basically straight away, you could have Orange Cassidy
back to Kenny. Yeah, that's true. That would be amazing. That would be great.
And And I mean, I don't want to see Pac lose to Kenny again. I mean, Kenny put him over pretty big by saying, he beat me.
That's true. That's true.
I don't.
Yeah, it was a good promo.
Losing to Kenny Omega doesn't hurt you, in my opinion. Losing to the champion, if it's a strong champion, doesn't hurt you, in my opinion.
No, especially if the in-ring stuff's done well, and it always is with AEW.
Yeah.
So all of these possibilities are so fucking exciting.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. It really
speaking
is,
of, and then Miro came out and talked about how he's going to wrestle Darby Allin for the TNT Championship next week.
So he's going to win, right?
Yeah.
Darby's injured. They have the stip that, which I hope they don't use. I hope Darby, it makes sense for his character to, come out with a sling on and, really try and push through and then just get absolutely trucked by Miro. But they've got an excuse to get the title off Darby. This Miro is great. Let's just do it.
Yeah, I think it's probably time. And, Darby can always come back into the picture later on anyway. He's a baby. He's got, Miro needs a belt.
Yeah, he definitely needs to be validated.
Miro needs a belt. He needs to be champion of something. Make it happen. Anyway, Blood and Guts, man. I was, from the minute this match started, I was engrossed. The phone went away, the laptop went away. I was just 100% watching every single, from the minute that Sammy and Dax got in the ring, I was in, this is the best that I've seen the War Games gimmick used ever. I know there might be some old timers who are like, how dare you? But I genuinely have not come across anything.
Yeah, this was. I agree.
That's held my interest. It might be my favorite cage match. I don't think I've seen a cage match better than. Maybe Hell in a Cell. Sorry, I forgot about Hell in a Cell
as
Mick Foley.
But this
Undertaker.
is the exact opposite, right? Because that match was not good at all. Undertaker was injured. Mick Foley was essentially concussed for most of the match. It just had sick. Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, was it Hell in a Cell with Undertaker? That's a particularly great match, but this might be
that's true.
This was the opposite of that, where the high spot sucked, but everything else was phenomenal and just seriously phenomenal.
Yeah, man. These guys, even right down to the ring attire, the Inner Circle coming out in prison uniforms, trying to Chris looked a little silly in a prison uniform, but the other four looked staunch as fuck, especially, and Santana and Ortiz coming out in their dead presidents gimmick.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then the Pinnacle dressed in all angelic white and gold and blue and just fucking brilliant, man. MJF being just a despicable prick outside the ring, taunting Sammy and stuff, and Sammy Guevara is so fucking good, man. I forget, it's this weird goldfish thing where I forget how good he is in the ring every week until I see him wrestle again. I go, oh yeah, Sammy's the best wrestler on the face of the planet, I don't want to downplay anyone else or anything talking about how good this was, but you just don't see this. You don't see wrestlers putting themselves on the line like this anywhere else.
Yeah.
And these guys are top guys as well. It's not a couple of mid-card jobbers who are just beating the shit out of each other and blading to get a response.
No, this is...
these were top guys beating the shit out of each other and waiting to get a response. But it was more than that. It was more there were little storylines throughout the whole match. Cash and Wheeler trying to put Santana and Ortiz away on the exposed ring. And God, man, there was just so much. Sean Spears trying to crawl up the cage to get away from Jericho because it was just too much. There were little nuances in this match. Sean Spears' chair spot on Sammy Guevara was incredible from both guys. I don't mind Sean Spears, dude.
Yeah, either do I. It hurts me to say, legitimately pains me to say it. But.
I know, right? He's good. He's good in the Pinnacle.
He's good. They're all good. And MJF is such a star. Such a phenomenal star. I think Bischoff was quoted this week on the 83 Weeks Ask Eric Anything, And the first person he said when they said the 5 people you'd start a promotion with now, he started with MJF.
Yeah, you'd be mad not
Like
to.
I would consider starting with 5 of the guys in that ring. Like they're all just like Sammy Guevara. Like I can't believe the level of babyface that guy is when was so unlikable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
like I think if you were to be a psychopath and go back and listen to this podcast from 7 months ago when the Inner Circle looked like it was turning on Sammy, and I was like, how the fuck can Sammy can't be the face? This is nonsense. I was wrong.
Yeah, but we hadn't seen, he was so good at being a heel, it just seemed unfathomable that he could be a great babyface, but he is. Everyone in this match worked their ass off, and then when you've got everybody working so hard, having MJF and Jericho in there as like the icing on the cake was phenomenal. I didn't mind them going up to the top of the ring. I thought it added a little bit of drama to the match.
Yeah.
Yes, like we've already spoken about the bump, but what I did like was once Jericho was thrown off the cage, MJF saying thank you, which was what all of his promos were about going into it. It carried on that storyline of like, you want to thank you, Chris? Well, here you go. Here's your fucking thank you.
And I mean, this is...
and then him just standing maniacally on the cage with blood pouring down his face. If you want to take like I had this as an A+. If you want to take the plus off this because of the bump, fine. It's still an A.
Yeah, it's you can't compare this to the
97 out of 100
exploding barbed wire death match. Like you can't compare it.
Oh, absolutely not.
However, you could say that
no, that was a legitimate
at
botch.
At some point, AEW is going to absolutely perfectly Olympic gymnast land a finish, and it is going to be the most wonderful moment as being a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Because God, we all want them
and
to.
Like, yeah, man. And I'll just sort of close on this. We as a fandom, and I genuinely mean this, we need to stop concentrating on the negatives. Even with the big bad WWE. I think we need to start, and I'm guilty of this, especially with WWE. We need to start concentrating on what we love about wrestling. Because what's the point? You know what I mean? I'm not saying we can't be critical. I'm not saying that people can't have opinions. Absolutely. But it doesn't need to be so aggressively bitchy with like a lot of the feedback was for Blood and Guts, man. Especially when you consider what went before that bump. Like there were 10 guys in that ring who literally bled for your entertainment. That doesn't necessarily always mean a great match, but this was. And I barely heard anyone talk about that. So I feel like we've kind of evened that ledger a little bit.
Also, can I just be completely honest? I would not jump backwards onto a crash pad off an 18-foot cage. Just as a note.
No way, man. Not at the age of 50. Not at the age of 50 when you've done everything. You don't have to prove shit to anyone. And Chris is still, and we talk about Chris Jericho in this way all the time, where he is a very, very unselfish guy, like on the roster.
Unfortunately, it's once again,
he might not.
As he rocks up to Sturgis and starts coughing on people.
Yeah, he may be a little more selfish in his personal life, but anyway, that's up to Chris. But as far as a wrestler is concerned, he is ridiculously unselfish. He's an unselfish performer, and anyway, there's no. I don't want to talk about the bump ever again. I just thought this was a fantastic. Show. I was legitimately joyful at the end of the episode. And I'm so happy AEW exists. Impact this week was great as well. There are wrestling promotions who are doing fantastic stuff. Even some the majority of SmackDown is actually pretty good as well. There is good wrestling out there. Let's watch it. Talk about that. I just think it's like there are times where I wonder, why would you be a wrestler? why would you? Like, it's such a difficult job. It's so demanding on so many different levels, and that you bust a gut, you bust your ass, and then you get that feedback on social media and YouTube and stuff. You just, if it was me, I'd just quit. I'd just be like, well, cool, no worries, guys. Like,
it's
anyway,
that kind of work ethic that brings you 7 podcasts
so,
a week from WrestleWolf. If anyone ever says anything negative about us,
well,
we're out.
Yeah, I'll just shut it all down. No, I just, you know what I mean, though, right? Like, it's just such a, you would mute anyone.
Seriously.
Like, or just not look at social media. It's, once again, everything comes back to social media just being fucking evil. Anyway, I think we're done. That's probably the end of the episode, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. We're done. We've ended.
Cool.
we're doing a real AEW by ending on a bit of a like, and we're done.
It's a really good episode, and then like a limp, just a limp over the finish line. Thank you for supporting us, guys, and listening. Just keep doing what you're doing, which is telling your friends about it. You can do that by going on the evil social media that I just bitched about for the last hour, following us and sharing us around with your friends. But until next time, brother dudes, friends, dudettes, Pepe is dead.